What scares me the most about racial issues today is non-dialogue.
My father was a devout racist.
There's a different energy when you actually come to the bridge.
I don't know if I'm going to get through this one okay.
There is no going back.
It was somewhat refreshing for me to actually get into this circle.
He was not who I thought he was. We have no other way to do it except do it together.
Healing the cultural divide one conversation at a time.
What scares me the most about racial issues today is non-dialogue. We've become polarized. I have a new saying I was sharing with my friend Joey. We have to look both ways before we vote. We have to look both ways before we talk. But we have to start talking. We've forgotten to use words that are critical in our vocabulary, things like fear, things like happiness, things like understanding, caring. We're not sitting down and having dialogue. We are absolutely, on both sides, just being brutal to each other rather than understanding we're all the same and coming to a table and discussing on an intellectual basis, an emotional basis, and a caring basis. It's what has to be our dialogue if we're going to resolve this problem.
So, yes, we had conversations about race, but I wouldn't call them conversations. They were more arguments, fights. My father was a devout racist. I objected to his views, his language, how he treated people. And, you know, it was in the time of the Civil Rights Movement, and we had a wonderful woman named Marie who came every day and washed our clothes and ironed them and cooked and cleaned, and I loved her to death. She was wonderful. And it hurt my heart that she had to walk to the bus and ride on the back of the bus. I knew it was wrong. It was not fair. And so I was angry a lot about that.
Yes, sir. The bridge was interesting. When I first heard, I heard about it through a very close friend, and the bridge was going to Montgomery, to the Slave Museum, and to the Civil Rights Museum. So I automatically assumed it was all black people taking a bus trip. And then he explained to me what the bridge was, and it was black men, white men, black women, white women coming together and sitting down, having a conversation. And then once I realized that the white man and white woman were going to the Slave Museum together, I kind of, I did the rock, like, whoa, okay, this is, never heard of this before. This is interesting. I want to experience this for myself. So that was my first experience.
It was a restaurant 100% black clientele on a normal, regular basis. And we walked in as a group of 6 men, 3 white, 3 black, and sat down at the table. And I can still remember to this day the expressions on the faces of those people as they saw us come in as an evenly matched group of white and black people to sit down and talk and eat together, break bread again. That was a monumental day in this. Unfortunately, because of scheduling, more people than that couldn't make it. But it was a black restaurant in which we all came in to sit down and talk. And everybody's looking around, what is going on here? What is this? They had never seen it before.
There is no going back. There's no going back. We can't strike that. We can't strike 2020 and all of the racial the racial awakening that's happening from the record. We can't unsee George Floyd. And what scares me is our political climate, where things are bubbling to a head, where people are being pushed to their limits. Limits perhaps that they didn't even know existed before now. And so with that concept of not being able to go back, what my fear is a country that has always been divided breaking.
Wow, the first time I came to a bridge meeting, it kind of felt like how I grew up, as it relates to just being in a diverse environment. I mean, living in Atlanta, I live in a mostly black community, and so it was somewhat refreshing for me to actually get into this circle and have this topic of race, be a key part of the dialogue. And so it was welcoming to me. I'm very comfortable in that space. And also being honest about it, not fluffing it, being really honest and, to the point about the real issues that we face.
In order to make that happen, this country needs a blood transfusion. It needs a blood transfusion because as someone that is black, what I am clear of is that we have shed blood, our bones, George Washington's teeth, Nate Turner's skin, our babies, everything was taken. And as a result, here we are. Here we are. And so in order to heal that, it is absolutely important. Saying I'm sorry is not enough because you can't take blood and bone and simply say I'm sorry. There has to be a transfusion, and that transfusion happens with white blood. It happens with white people saying, I will stand for you. I will cry for you. I will be in this place for you. I will shed my blood. And it's not a violent situation. It is one of openness, honesty, humility, and being willing to absolutely understand that our way, the way that I know to be, isn't the way forward because it's built on the blood, the bones of another people. And so what the bridge does is allow us to come, and it allows me to say, will you bleed for me? Will you cry for me? And will you stand for me?
One of our black brothers had a gas station business that a bunch of white guys tried to essentially take away from him. And as he began to relate this story to the group, he became more and more and more emotional about it. And I don't know if I'm going to get through this one okay, because it was a very, very difficult moment for all of us. He said, why do y'all do that? And then he broke into tears. Why do y'all do that to us? Why do you try to take away what we have? We built it. It's ours. Why would you just come and try to take it away? There. That was a toughie. Thank you for allowing me the space to put that out there. That was not an easy time for us. You could have dropped a pin in that room and heard it clearly for the silence that followed.
The best part about the presentations the Bridge has are, certainly there's information, but it's people telling their stories and getting to hear other people's stories and what their life experience has been like, has been lifting. It's been a way to lift the veil, I think, from many people's eyes about how narrowly they have viewed either their own life experience or what others have gone through. I think it's been a very broadening and bonding experience in almost every meeting.
Was I had my daughter come home, and it was like my first week going out to pick up diapers, middle of the night, 2 o'clock run. You got every father's been there before you run out of supplies. I head over to Kroger's in Douglasville, and it is now 2 a.m. at night. There's only one car in the parking lot, so I don't park terribly too far because there's no one else there. I rush in, I grab my diapers. I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I had very little sleep. I get to the register. Gentleman's ahead of me, he's a biker, bearded, tattoo, the leather coat, the whole nine. I look at him, he kind of looks back. I was saying to myself, I have to walk out to the car with this guy. I don't know this guy, and he's burly, he's huge. I'm a relatively big guy, but this is not where I want to be. I'm exhausted. And then as he proceeded to check out at the counter, he turned around and said, here, I have a coupon for those diapers, for all things. He says, here, you're going to need it. And I said, listen, thank you ever so much. And I did. I got the discount. We both walked out together, and he said, hey, man, look, just take good care of your family. I said, listen, I will definitely do that. But as I saw him initially, my thought was totally different from what the start of the conversation was. The old adage, never judge a book by its cover. He was not who I thought he was. Gentleman, definitely a father, like I was a father, and saw a young father in me and said, here, let's make a difference here. I'll hand you something. But it was a unique experience at 2 a.m. in the grocery store, just two of us, and it was a reminder that we are placed in situations that God places us in. That it's a reminder that there's good in this world.
So much, because it's one thing to hear about the bridge and to hear about, to be frank, white people and black people sitting down together talking about race. That's not the first time that's happened. So it's one thing to hear about it, but to actually see it is a different feeling. There's a different energy when you actually come to the bridge, when you actually come to a meeting, and there's 30 people, 35 people, and it's not just 5 black, 25 white, that it's pretty much even, and that everyone is involved, and you can feel the energy, you can hear the passion when people are speaking. That's what's most important for me. For me personally, if I would have been told about the bridge and I showed up and it was all white men, I would have left.
Since I joined the bridge, I have changed. I think that I'm more open, certainly more aware. I have a greater understanding, and I'm more hopeful. If this can happen, even in one place in the country, it can happen in many places. And just the idea of sharing stories and having dialogue and listening and being willing to say the tough stuff and call people when they call them on their stuff when they're expressing a racist view they're not even realizing they're expressing has been very eye-opening for me and helpful.
If I wanted a friend to join the bridge, I would say that it is probably the best use of your spare time that I could possibly think of, because you are not only improving relations, which is something of an intangible, but it's very there, but it has a very concrete effect, too, of bringing forth the concept of we are stronger together than we are apart. I was always brought up to believe that a house divided unto itself can't stand. And that was some of the first religious lessons I ever learned. And I believe that. I believe that to be true. So there are compound or multiple effects to be had from spending your time this way, or at least some of it, or giving a part of yourself to something like this, that I think is very, very useful. So I don't think I would have any real trouble, and we haven't, as a group here where I live, had much trouble in interesting other people to come to the meetings that we've been having. So
I would tell my friend that I wanted to join the Bridge that this is a healing organization. Fundamentally, as someone that practices emotional intelligence trauma work, I believe that we all have something to heal and that everything that we want is on the other side of our healing. And I would tell them that the Bridge is a healing organization, and thinking about what it is that you want in your life, in our community, in our society, what it is that needs to be healed, and that this is a safe place to come and to do that work.
I don't get it how we even can think that we can be separate from each other.
Right.
Like, that's not going to ever work, you know? So I'm like, the sooner we get this figured out, the better, because it's not like we have no other way to do it except do it together.
Right.
So.
And to acknowledge that, that's one of the things that bonded our group, is the recognition of the very, very divisive and very difficult history. But we're working to heal that.
Yeah.
And that's what we call it, healing the cultural divide one conversation at a time.
Again, that's why I love the Bridge, because the potential with the Bridge being the catalyst for growth and for facilitating growth in American society, that potential is boundless. Some very, very great things will come from this group. It will come from the Bridge.